Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Tuesday. It's October 29th. It is 2024. We have a four-game NBA slate to talk about here on today's podcast. Riding solo today, only four games. Like doing these smaller, shorter slates solo. I always feel like it's a good time. So hope everyone's having an awesome Monday night, and hopefully basketball is going well. Hopefully NFL is going well. It's going well for the Steelers, up 11 with about 7.5 minutes to go in this game. And Calvin Austin is having a better night than all of us. So what a night by him. Punt return and a big touchdown. What's up, YouTube chat? If you're not hanging out with us live, always feel free to go over there to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind YouTube page and subscribe. And yeah, can we all agree today that Harrison Barnes is trash? Yeah, I mean, Harrison Barnes, he has those like games, right, Brian? Like he has those games every once in a while. You're like, oh, maybe he's not really that bad. So yeah, I mean, my boy Paulo Banchero, though, did you guys see what he did? Man, oh man. He was balling out tonight against the Pacers. I don't know how many fantasy points he ended up, but I would assume it was over 80 fantasy points. He looked incredible. Paulo, yeah, he went bonkers. He was playing some really awesome basketball. What's up, Dave? What's up, Derek? All right, only a four-game NBA slate. Still early in the season. We're still working through, what type of rotations or what and stuff like that. So it's always fun when you get these smaller slates earlier on in the year. We get started with Denver at Brooklyn, 218 total in this game. Denver, 6.5-point favorite. Denver on a back-to-back. They had an OT game against Toronto on Monday night. On the Brooklyn side, Bogdanovich is out, Sharp is out, Simons is out, and Watford is out. So Ben Simmons is out. I wrote down Simmons too. So we'll talk about the Brooklyn side in a minute. We'll start here with the Denver side. Big minutes from Jokic, Murray, Braun, Gordon. Braun had another really solid game. Jamal Murray had a really solid game. He was closing in on a triple-double. Aaron Gordon almost had a triple-double. It'd be really interesting to see what Denver does on the second end of a back-to-back minutes-wise, because, I mean, four of their starters played 40-plus minutes, and Michael Porter Jr. played 39 minutes. So it will be interesting to see what they do. They use a pretty short bench nightly, so it's not like these guys play a ton of minutes most of the time, so their prices are way down. So assuming like in the scenario that everyone plays, if everyone plays, sorry, the water went down the wrong pipe. Try not to cough. Gotta love that, right? So if everyone plays for Denver, I think we can go back to Braun at 4,400, just playing a bunch of minutes, getting a lot of really solid production right now. So at 4,400, he potentially could be one of the best value plays on the slate. It's a small slate. There are some injuries that we'll talk about throughout the slate that is definitely going to open up some value. I mean, it's crazy. We're like second week of the season, and like we already have a bunch of injuries to talk about. So I like Braun. If everyone plays, I like Braun. If we start seeing like the person that I'm worried about the most sitting here is Jamal Murray. I wouldn't be shocked if Jamal Murray sits in this game. For what it's worth, he's the one that I'm kind of like looking at. Like, there's a possibility that he sits, and like Westbrook becomes a really great play at 5K if Murray's out. I don't think Aaron Gordon or Jokic sit, but Murray's the one that like I could see them resting in this spot. So for me on Denver, a lot of it's going to be determined by who's in and who's out. If everyone plays, my biggest interest here is going to be Braun at 4,400. I would still maybe take some shots on Jokic because it's a small slate. Raw points matter on a small slate. Dallas is in Minnesota. Dallas is kind of healthy. They're on a back-to-back too. So like when you're looking at the top end studs, Luka and Jokic are the only two players over 10K. raw points matter. Got to have some exposure to Jokic today, assuming that he plays. And he's not a 3-point shooter, so it's not like a back-to-back should hurt his shot attempts and stuff. So the Brooklyn side, I mean, you don't necessarily hate the matchup for Brooklyn today. I feel like they're definitely, again, it's a 4-game slate, so we're looking and processing things a little differently because the slate is so small than it is on a bigger slate. I think Cam Thomas is my favorite, even at 7,700. I think Cam Thomas is still very playable. His usage is through the roof. It's like 34% to start the season, and that's just fantastic when averaging 34 minutes. So obviously a lot of interest in Cam Thomas. I mean, a little bit of interest in Schroeder. 6K, small slate. Usage is really good, like 25% for Schroeder to start the season. Just came off a game against Milwaukee where he had 46 fantasy points. He's taken double-digit shot attempts in all 3 games so far this year. So I think Schroeder is someone to look at because, I mean, he's a guy that can get some assists. Denver's going to have a little bit of tired legs here. So I think Schroeder very much in play. Yeah, I mean, if you can get like 20 actual points and like 8-9 assists from Schroeder, I think everyone would be pretty happy with that scenario. So I think Schroeder, 6K on a small slate is fine. I don't necessarily hate this spot for Claxton. His production and minutes are the biggest thing for me. We need to see Nick Claxton get up into that like 30-minute mark, and he will eventually get there. So I think we're kind of on layaway right now with Claxton. Bogdanovich already being ruled out. Simmons being ruled out. Finney Smith should play really solid minutes in this game. I assume he plays like 25 to 30 minutes. He's 4,300. I don't hate that. But overall, my main interest here is going to be Thomas and Schroeder. Those are the 2 guys that I like in this matchup for Brooklyn. Like I said, Schroeder is a really strong play for me today. They've been checking him out early in the first and third quarters and like letting him kind of control the usage in the second, like with the second team. So I love that. That gives him a lot of upside. So outside of those guys, though, Johnson, I don't love. If he kind of fits into a build, he's cheap enough where you could potentially play him. But Claxton is a minutes thing, and that's really it for me. Nothing else. Like I said, Finney Smith could potentially play enough minutes. It'd be interesting to see who they start for Ben Simmons. I would assume it would be Jalen Wilson, but I could be wrong. I don't think they'd start Zier. They might start Zier instead. So if Williams starts, he could potentially play a couple extra minutes at 3,300. Like, he wouldn't be a bad large field tournament play if he starts. So just kind of watch that. Yeah. Yeah, well, I appreciate that, Stanley. Our show, we're closing in on 1,700 episodes. We've been going for 8.5, almost 9 years. Yeah. Listen, I love that you love my solo shows. The smaller slates are fun, right? Like we gotta mix it up. I love doing first look podcasts. Like I've been doing it obviously for 8.5 years. I like these first look podcasts because like it makes me research the slate and it just kind of gives me an idea of what I'm looking for in the day. Like basketball, I could love somebody tonight and tomorrow injury news and like I get off of them, but like it gives me an idea of where I want to start my slate. Baseball, I feel like the baseball podcasts are the best for morning grinds because I mean you don't, besides lineup changing, and you don't get as much. So this is a Oakland Athletics AAA hat, and he's pitching dice. Everyone knows I love my AAA minor league baseball hats. All right. Dallas at Minnesota, 224 total. Minnesota, 4.5-point favorite. Dallas on the second end of a back-to-back. I think that game against Utah just kind of got wrapped up. Good game by the Mavs. They beat Utah. And then nobody on the injury report for Minnesota. it'd be interesting to see what Dallas does with like Luka and Kyrie on a back-to-back here. I assume both of them play. I wouldn't see why they both wouldn't play. Like, we're getting into our first like back-to-back action of the year. So we'll see if everyone plays. Maybe Klay Thompson takes a night off on the second end of a back-to-back. There's all kinds of scenarios that could play out, but we'll have to kind of see. In the thought process of everybody plays here for Dallas, obviously tough matchup for Luka against Minnesota. They're an awesome defensive team again this year. They're going to be a top 5 defense again. It's obviously still very early in the year, but everything that we're kind of seeing so far for them, they're going to be really good defensively. So, yeah, and then like the pace of this game, Dallas has, excuse me, been middle of the road. Minnesota kind of plays slow. They want to play slow, and like even slower now that Cat's gone. So on the Dallas side, Luka, again, if he plays, I talked about this a few minutes ago with Jokic. It's a 4-game slate. Raw points matter on 4-game slates. So I would have some interest in Luka. Kyrie, I mean, he's just kind of in this like sidekick role. I think Kyrie will be in play from time to time this year, especially when Luka misses a game or so. But yeah, I mean, now with Klay Thompson too, like Kyrie doesn't need to go out and score 30, 35 points a game. He's okay with 20 points a game. So no real interest for me in Kyrie. The one that I have some interest in here is PJ Washington. PJ Washington can fill up the stat sheet. Huge game against Utah on Monday night, 40 fantasy points. Did it all on the defensive side. 2 blocks, 4 steals. He's a guy that can really get those points added up quickly on the defensive side. If you can get like a 10-10 game out of him and a couple of defensive stats, he can easily pay off this price tag. So I don't mind him. Lively off the bench. Always in play in tournaments. 5K. He didn't have like the best game, but he didn't have a bad game against Utah. He scored 30 fantasy points. He had a solid game. So Lively off the bench, always in play for me. And like I said, I prefer paying up for Luka. I don't love Klay. I wouldn't be shocked if Klay sits. If Klay sits, I would assume that like Dinwiddie gets the start. I could be wrong, but that's kind of what my first initial reaction is. Dinwiddie gets the start instead of Klay sits. So they do have like Marshall who could start too. So it could be Marshall or Dinwiddie. Maybe it is Marshall because he's more of a wing like Klay. Najee Marshall, that is. So watch this news. I wouldn't be shocked if Klay sits. Second end of a back-to-back, all the injuries he's had over the last few years, early in the season. So watch that news. Going to the Minnesota side here, small slate. Always going to be interested in Anthony Edwards on these small slates. The guy, his usage is incredible. He's going to get his. He's going to get his shots up. He has a huge ceiling on any given slate. 32% usage through the first 3 games this season. Julius Randle, usage is really solid. I really like this role that DiVincenzo has off the bench, getting plenty of run. He's going to have upside. He's going to have games where he just puts up, 30 plus fantasy points. So we saw him shoot 11 threes against Toronto the other night. I think that's a good sign. So I don't mind him in large field tournaments. Main plays here for me night before would be Anthony Edwards. And like, this is a game that Rudy Gobert could crush in, so thinking of like his matchup here and like the size matchup, I think Gobert is going to be needed to play like 30 to 35 minutes. And like, he's played at least 35 minutes in each of 3 games this year. So I think that you could definitely play Rudy Gobert today at 7K. Sacramento at Utah. I was shocked there was a total out for this game. Both teams on a back-to-back. 235.5 or 235 total. Utah 4.5 point favorite. Like I said, Utah coming off a loss against Dallas. Sacramento playing right now against Portland, beating them by 6 with 3 minutes to go before halftime. We'll start here with the King side of this game. I like this game. This is definitely a game I want to target. I hate the back-to-back, but it could also lead to a faster pace. But Utah and Sacramento both play fast. I mean, just in general, both of these teams are in the top 10 in pace. So this is a game that has a lot of potential. It has the highest total by 11 points. So I want to play this game. I like Sabonis. I like Fox. I don't necessarily love DeRozan. I've never been a huge DeRozan player. 7,900, and he's a scorer at this point of his career. Like they got him out there just to be a scorer. So I'd rather just go down to a Keegan Murray or a Malik Monk and take shots on these guys. I really love the roll through the first two games for Keegan Murray. 43 and 40 minutes in the first two games. Again, it's a back-to-back. He's only played 13 minutes, but he's been in foul trouble. So hopefully that potential of like not playing a lot here on Monday night potentially helps us for Tuesday. If he stays out of foul trouble in the second half, maybe he gets up to 35 minutes, 30 minutes still. But I think Keegan Murray is the guy that I really want to play in this spot. I like Fox. I like Sabonis. I think they're great. DeRozan's a scorer. Like he's the guy that if he can score 30 actual points, he has an upside, like a ceiling. So could you take shots on him? Sure. I prefer Keegan Murray. I prefer Fox, and I prefer Sabonis. I don't hate Herter. He's been starting. His minutes have been kind of all over the place because, I mean, the first night against Minnesota, he shot the ball terrible. The Lakers game, he played 26 minutes. He shot a lot better. So he's another guy that you could take shots on in large field tournaments here because he is getting, starter type minutes. I think everyone plays on the second end of a back-to-back for Sacramento. So not too concerned about the back-to-back for them. And on the Utah side, Markkanen didn't do as well as I was kind of hoping for on Monday night. But, I mean, this is a good matchup against Sacramento. This is definitely a matchup you want to target some Utah players here. We saw Sexton have a really good scoring night. But the production and usage is really spread out right now. Kessler, he finally had that double-double. He had a couple blocks, too. So 5,700 against the Kings is not a bad price. Sabonis is not necessarily a guy that I think Kessler excels against. So not my favorite play today. I mean, it's Sexton. Sexton's interesting at his price point. Markkanen very much in play for a 4-game slate. John Collins is getting a ton of usage with the second unit, but his minutes are just not good enough. He got in a little bit of foul trouble on Monday night and still put up 32 fantasy points. So I love the usage for John Collins right now off the bench. And Clarkson has a lot of usage off the bench. So kind of what I'm targeting here. Taylor Hendricks got hurt in the game. So I assume he won't be back. It looked like he broke his leg. So there is a report that came out 15 minutes ago. He fractured his tibia and dislocated his ankle. So he's going to be out for a while, if not the rest of the season. So let's talk through that, I guess. Like, does Collins start now? I assume John Collins starts now. I hate that for John Collins. I liked him way more with the second unit. I'll be looking through game flow to try to get an idea of who really benefits here. But I would assume that they start Collins, maybe not. Yeah, I mean, he's going to be out a while. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see who that really benefits. Does Sensabaugh play more, maybe? at 3,500, maybe Sensible plays a little bit more. So we're definitely watching the Utah Jazz starting lineup tomorrow, and it comes out at 9, and we have those two 7:30 games. So definitely going to be interesting to see what happens with the starting lineup for Utah here. So I like Collins more coming off the bench with his usage, but if he starts at 5,400, he probably plays 30 minutes. So I would definitely be interested in John Collins if he starts or if he comes off the bench. I mean, either way, I think I'm interested in John Collins today. I mean, I assume that it's Collins. They also have Williams, but he's kind of a wing too. Cody Williams is a wing, so I think one of Sensible or Williams has enough production today. Maybe Drew Eubanks comes back and plays enough minutes, but I really think that one of Williams or Sensible have some upside at 37 and 3,500. I think one of those guys plays 20 plus minutes here because if Collins starts, they're going to need one of these two guys to play a little bit more. It's a back-to-back early in the season, so I really don't have a lean towards either one as far as like who plays more. I think Sensible has a little bit more upside potentially, but I mean at these prices, if either one of these guys gets 20 minutes and scores 20 fantasy points at 37, 3,500, we talk so much in the NBA DFS world about like stars and scrubs type of builds. 4-game slate. Obviously we're going to talk about the Warriors situation and Steph being out in the next game, but I think you're definitely looking at potentially playing one of these two guys. Because I think Collins starts. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. It's okay. I hope, hey, if one of those guys start, they're cheap too. New Orleans at Golden State is where we finish this short, small slate. 217 total. New Orleans a 2.5-point favorite. Murphy and Murray out for New Orleans. Steph and Melton out for Golden State. Wiggins questionable. We'll be watching that Wiggins news because it matters enough. On the New Orleans side, really love what I've seen so far this season from Brandon Ingram. I know he didn't have as good a game the other night against Portland, but I think Brandon Ingram is just playing really good basketball. It's not necessarily been like fantastic fantasy basketball, but I really like what he's doing on the basketball side of things. I mean, him and Zion obviously have a bunch of upside in any matchup. We saw CJ McCollum be way more involved against Portland the other night, so I like that. The game didn't necessarily stay close, and I'm always a little worried about that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, Herb Jones. The Yankees didn't have the pitching for the World Series, right? Herb Jones is interesting today for tournaments. He's played at least 29 minutes in 3 straight games. He had a really great 8-minute run in the first quarter the other night and didn't score any fantasy points. So he scored all of his fantasy points, all 19 and a half in his last 23 minutes of that game. So I think Herb Jones at 5,400, he has some positive regression coming. The minutes on this team, CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Jordan Hawkins is another guy that I really like. We talked about him on the podcast the other day, and his minutes have been fantastic. He's going to have great minutes with DeJounte being out. They have been running him off the bench, but he's been finishing the fourth quarter. So I hope that continues. I like Jordan Hawkins here at 4,900. I think he's another really strong value play on this smaller slate. On the Golden State side, no Steph is huge for any slate. And now it's even bigger because we're on a 4-game slate with no Steph. So big news here because Steph has a 28% usage rate on the season. And we've seen him be a little bit more aggressive with Clay gone so far. I think the biggest beneficiary here is Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield already huge usage, shot the ball absolutely terrible against the Clippers the other night. 3 for 14, still put up 21 fantasy points. He's going to get more run in this game. I'd be shocked if he didn't. He's going to go out there, and I wouldn't be shocked if he scores or shoots 20 times. So as much as I like Kuminga, I don't. I mean, I like this spot a lot. Excuse me. I like this a lot for Buddy Hield. The other guy that I really like here, his minutes have kind of been all over the place, but Moses Moody is somebody that had 2 solid games to start the season as far as like scoring. He's going to benefit. I think he plays a few extra minutes here with Steph out. Podsy's going to play extra minutes with Steph out. So, I mean, everyone benefits from Curry being off the floor. Curry is such a big scorer. The other night when Steph left the game in the fourth quarter and didn't come back, we saw the Warriors finish with Wiggins, Looney, Kuminga, Hield, and Podsy. And then D'Anthony Melton, if he sits too, it makes me like these guys even more. It makes me like Podsy more. It makes me like Hield more. So, they already said Melton's not going to play. I had him as, I have Wiggins as questionable. Melton's out. So, yeah, I mean, really like Podsy today. Really like Moody. Really like Hield. I'm probably going to end up playing at least 2 of these guys on my main team. It's a great spot. They should have plenty of usage. So this is one of those spots I definitely okay with playing 2 of these Warriors cheap values, Podsy, Moody, or Hield. Draymond's production goes down without Steph typically, but we have to remember, like, we haven't really seen Draymond without Steph, without Clay too. But Draymond's actually been like really bad to start the year, so I'm not too concerned about playing Draymond anyway. So there's nobody really assisting on this team. Like, if their assist numbers are some of the worst assist numbers to the NBA to start the season. So not too concerned about Draymond. I hope Draymond gets some ownership today. I haven't been playing him. Regardless, like, I think if you're going to play like a big man here, you're better off taking a shot on like Kuminga. Like, Kuminga can actually get usage and do something with his usage. Like, I think you're better off taking shots on like Wiggins or Kuminga, but Buddy Hield, Moses Moody, Podsy, the 3 guys that I want to target from the Warriors today. I don't want to play Draymond. Draymond's price is nice, but I don't want to play him today. That's it. Let's play the morning grind game. I actually did the morning grind game today. So it's awesome when you could do the morning grind game and you don't have someone taking your answers. So my answers get taken a lot, which is, that's a good thing, right? That means a lot of us are on the same page as far as NBA and NFL and stuff. Favorite play under 5K to go 7X, DraftKings, pricing, and scoring. I'm going to my boy Podsy. I just talked about him. I think he's going to really see an increase. We saw him a lot last year without Clay and Steph, so kind of knows what's going on here. I do get sniped a lot, Derek. Over 8K to go under 5X. I mean, we don't have a ton of options up here as far as like expensive plays. I'm going all the way to the top. It's really scary. Give me Luka to go under 5X today. Is it likely? Probably not. Raw points matter on a 4-game slate. I still think you should take shots on Luka. But I hate how much Minnesota slows down the games, and I hate how tough Minnesota defense is. And yeah, it's a tough one today for Luka. So I'd rather play Jokic. If I was going to pay over 10K for somebody, I'd rather play Jokic. Also, a slate, you could definitely go a little bit more balanced than typical. But again, raw points matter so much that still got to look at these guys a little bit. Favorite 6X play? Good question. I think there's a lot of awesome plays today. Man, this is a tough one because what I originally wrote down, I don't know if I like it as much as I did when I was doing my research earlier. So I'll tell you, I originally wrote down Fox. De'Aaron Fox was my original answer to this question. But as we went through the slate, I don't know if I like him as much for this answer. Honestly, I'm going to go. So my favorite 6X play today is Rudy Gobert. I really like the floor of Rudy Gobert. So I'm going to switch my answer that I originally wrote down to Rudy Gobert. Favorite GPP ceiling play, any price point. Who do I think have the highest? Who do I think has the highest ceiling on this slate? I have to go Sabonis. I think Sabonis is your upside play of the day. I think he's your ceiling guy. Obviously, I think Jokic and Luka always have an incredible ceiling. So it's not, talking bad about those guys. But yeah, I think this is a great spot today for Sabonis. So I think he has the highest ceiling on the entire slate. My Let's Get Weird GPP play, again, it is a 4-game slate, so it's really hard to find like a really low owned play, but Schroeder is my Let's Get Weird GPP play today. I hope that he goes overlooked. I think this is a great spot for him. I was looking to see if there was any bet like props up, and he was one that I was looking to see if it was up yet, but it's hard to get props up the night before when there's so many back-to-backs, so I don't think we'll get a lot of props up. So I was just quickly looking to see. I like some of the secondary pieces today for Golden State props-wise, and none of those props are up yet either, so I'm going to pass on the betting portion of the show today just because there's not a lot of lines and stuff up yet. So that'll wrap us up. Tuesday, 4-game slate. Awesome little fun slate. I think for a 4-game slate, there's a lot of different ways to potentially build on this slate. So that's always a lot of fun. Hope everyone has a great Tuesday. We are back on Wednesday talking hoops. Good luck, everyone. We'll see you then.